Although they express their distress differently, much like adults, children also experience stress. Beginning from the womb, the hypothalamus-pituitary-adrenal axis of infants is fully functional, releasing corticosteroids in event of exposure to any type of stressors. It is also constantly being shaped by all the new information they gather from their surrounding as they grow older. At each stage of their development, children face different forms of stressors. Infants' stress levels are mainly affected by violence and anger expressed by their parents. A longitudinal study conducted under the Center of Developmental Science at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill found that infants from violent homes had higher basal cortisol levels. However, the study found that violent homes did not affect the behavior of the stressed infants as opposed to the unstressed infants who lived in non-violent homes with no exposure to interparental anger. Instead, infants from homes with interparental anger seem to have adapted to high level of cortisol as a form of coping. Eventually, however, this form of constant stress and lack of support begins to affect the brain structure of the infant, decreasing the synaptic strength and reactivity to stress. It can also be expressed by a less effective negative feedback loop, in which glucocorticoid receptor expression is inhibited by the high levels of cortisol. Early childhood introduces a new set of stressors in addition to those experienced during infancy. At this time in life, children begin preschool, which is a major stressful transition. Not only are they away from their parents, but they face a new challenge of learning to communicate with their peers and teachers. Many children have learned the capacity for coping with troubles by expressing themselves emotionally in a variety of ways. Two common ways that children express their stress include aggression, where they revert to earlier coping mechanisms such as thumb sucking, and displacement, where they divert their anger to another source. In a study conducted by the University of Wisconsin School of Medicine and Public Health, researchers sought to understand how these stressors permanently affect the biological processes of children. The study showed that these stressors have the ability to alter gene expression through DNA methylation without affecting the genome. More specifically, much like infancy, participants that were exposed to early life stressors had increased DNA methylation of the glucocorticoid receptor gene, which is vital in the regulation of stress. Development at different stages. While infants tend to adapt to higher cortisol levels induced by toxic stress by developing a less effective negative feedback loop, toddlers often divert their stress towards objects and/or people around them. On the other hand, children during middle childhood begin to develop coping mechanisms and stress responses that can persist throughout adulthood while also having decreased sensitivity to cortisol.